and also just highlight a few of the programs we do along with the series of programs we have in line. As I had mentioned, as you can see here, we lead aims to build the human and social capital to build a resurgent India. We work with four sectors: the government, the NGOs, the corporates, and the community. And in the community, our specific focus is on the youth. So, of these sectors, today's lecture series, starting today, the Guru Manthan series, is targeted at the teachers and the general public at large. So this series of lectures and discussions with eminent educationists and thinkers, it will help us create a platform to share, discuss, debate, and also learn about diverse perspectives and practices in the field of education. This series, starting from today, it will run on every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And among the first few speakers, we have Dr. Gurraj Karjagi, who will be speaking today. Next week, we will have Professor M.K. Sridhar with us. Professor M.K. Sridhar is also a member of the drafting committee of the National Education Policy, which was approved recently. Then on Independence Day, we will have Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, who was the former Chief Election Commissioner of India. On 22nd of August, we will have Mr. Anurag Beher from the Azim Premji Foundation. And on Teachers' Day, we will have Dr. Kasturi Rangan with us. And these are among the 50 speakers who will be with us in this journey. Today we have Dr. Gurraj Karjagi, who needs no introduction at all. He is the chairman of the Academy for Creative Teaching. He's a very renowned columnist, and his book, The Karanalu Ba Belike, which has come out in 10 volumes, is very popular. And I should mention that he's been associated with our organization SVYM for nearly 3 decades now. And he has started the summer camp program for our tribal kids, which has been going on for over 25 years now, every year. Thank you, sir. We welcome you to this platform. Sir will be talking about the journey of a teacher to a guru, a very apt title, and this will be the inaugural lecture. A quick indicator to all the participants: you can type in your questions in the chat box, which is available. Mr. Ramesh, the director of VLead, and myself, we will pick up specific questions which we will be asking sir. Sir will give a talk for 20 minutes, then we will have 30 minutes for the Q&A session, followed by 10 minutes of closing remarks by sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. At the outset, my pranams to all of you. It is an honor and a privilege that I have been asked to talk today. And this is the first lecture of the series. I feel so much at home when I talk to people in SVYM. So much of homely feeling I have. Since I have very limited time of 20 minutes, side share, can I screen the slide? Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Can you enable me?
You can do it, sir, now.
Yeah. Yeah. In order to save time, I thought this is the best way. The topic is so exciting. Journey from a teacher to guru. The day you are appointed as a teacher in a school, you get the designation as a teacher. But at the end of 3 decades of your teaching there, you still retire as a teacher is a tragedy. I must take journey in this path pick up milestones and grow higher and deeper. If I don't do that, I think I have not done justification to my job. How do you define that? Simple one, a teacher teaches, gives information. He may be a good teacher, he teaches information correctly. But it is a guru who transforms children. We have seen some people, just by their presence, can transform people. They have gone to that level. I may or may not reach that level, but the journey should be on direction. All over the world, the Guru Shishya Parampara has been existing even now. The earliest Guru Shishya relationship that I can think of is Vishwamitra and Rama. If you see the original Valmiki Ramayana, Vishwamitra comes into Ramayana as unexpectedly as he goes away from that. He comes for a specific job. He comes there asking Dasharatha to send his 2 children to protect his yajna. But if you see carefully, he did not need those 2. He was capable of managing that. He is a very powerful warrior himself, Kaushika. But he wanted Rama and Lakshmana. Dasharatha said, I'll come with my army and protect your yajna. He said, I don't want you. I want the children. So the message is very clear. He was not expecting Rama and Lakshmana to protect the yajna. They may protect incidentally, but he's taken upon himself the job of shaping Rama and Lakshmana as the future leaders of the world. It was his job. He taught them how to use weaponries. He taught them Gayatri Mantra, taught them spiritual experiences. And finally, through them, he made them an instrument of killing Tataka and all the people. And he takes them on a journey. Very interesting. Education is not complete without life experience. He takes them on a journey, makes Rama convert a stone into Ahalya. That's another symbolic one, as a metaphor actually. It doesn't mean that she had become stone and suddenly transformed into a lady. He was responsible for the transformation of Ahalya. Then took her to Mithila, took Rama and Lakshmana to Mithila and asked him to break the Shiv Dhanus, lift the Shiv Dhanus, and Rama broke it. He got him married also. Something extraordinary the teacher could do. Not only teach, but even get the student married without the parents' permission. Very interesting. Dasharatha did not know that Rama is getting married. After the message is sent, but interesting is Dasharatha did not even question Vishwamitra. Why did he do that? That is a kind of implicit faith, complete faith the parents had in the teacher at that time. Vishwamitra remains a role model as a great teacher. And we have the great Krishna Arjuna. And I would request every teacher to read something of translated version or whatever of Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad is a mandatory for every teacher. And the essence of that is the story of Varuna and Bhrigu. It's called Bhrigu in Taittiriya Upanishad. So read that story. One of the finest relationship between teacher and the student is the father and son relation. But that if you read that story, you will understand how to teach. Today we are talking of new education policy. This was given by Bhrigu long back. How to teach? Varuna says, don't impose on the student what he should learn. Create interest in him so that he can learn on his own. Varuni, Shetaketu, Yajnavalkya and Janaka, Socrates, Plato, all over the world, Aristotle, Alexander, Jesus Christ and Andreas, Junaid and Al-Halaj Mansur, Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, Samartha Ramdas and Shivaji, and most recent example is Shiva Subramaniam Iyer and Dr. Kalam. Kalam never finished his talk without mentioning the name of his Iyer master. Since I had to give a summary of the talk, how the stages have to, how the teacher has to transform himself into a guru by crossing over these stages. These are different stages. A new teacher, when he joins, what he is supposed to do? I quickly give the headlines only. Look at it. He is preparing thoroughly for the class, takes care of her dress. I always write her, not he, because he is a part of her and man is a part of woman, not vice versa. So he takes care of her dress, the language and the teaching aids that she uses, creates a climate for learning. This is all about the physical effort of a teacher. First, it starts with the physical atmosphere. Once you cross that, you go to the next level. Teacher is not just mechanical now. Teacher is trying to be creative in doing everything. She's not happy about teaching what she was doing before. Now she wants to teach in a very creative way. Teacher is positive. She never makes derogatory remarks about students. I've seen teachers who go on complaining about the whole world before the children. Not necessary. What is your role in that? Only complaining? If you can set right a few things, is good for you. So therefore, teacher is always positive. Teacher creates curiosity in the children. And the last and most important, teacher does not discriminate or reject anyone. This is the emotional stage of a teacher. Once physically she is ready to handle a class, take the class, she is efficient now, she is a new teacher. Then she becomes a proficient teacher by building her emotions. When I say emotional, she does not become emotional. She knows how to handle her emotions and emotions of the children. This is second stage. Once she crosses that, she goes to the third stage. She becomes a veteran teacher. She's very senior now, but what is her role now? I call her an intellectual teacher. We have a wrong idea about what intellectual means. We think intellectual means if you finish level A, go to level B. More problem, tougher problems, solve it. That is not intellectual to me at all. Touch the intellect of the students. Teacher is so sensitive about what she speaks. I have seen teachers who are not sensitive, they hurt the children very badly. Intellectual teacher will not do that. And she is very careful about her own behavior. This is more important. Teacher is very careful about her own behavior. And then teacher loves her subject intensely. This is very, very important to me. If I am as good as the textbook, I should better be replaced. I must be much better than the textbook. I must read much more than that. And Dr. G.P. Rajaratnam, who was my mentor in my earlier days of my teaching, 47, 48 years ago, he would always ask me, Mestre, overhead tank tumskondidira? Overhead tank tumbidya? Is your overhead tank full? Overhead tank full? Now you can make out. If the overhead tank is full, you get water in the taps. If the overhead tank is empty, you get only air. How do I prepare for my class? I love my subject so much. If not for the sake of salary, if not for the sake of job, I can't live without the subject. I'm so passionate about it. That is the intellectual growth of a teacher. And most important is, normally when you become expert, you become arrogant. She becomes more humble, more humble. We learn from nature, my friends. We learn from nature. When the tree grows taller and taller, it starts bending. And that branch of the tree which has maximum fruits bends down. It is a sign that it has got more fruits. So a teacher who is intellectual becomes more humble. And then comes the transformative teacher. She's an inspiring teacher. She discovers the talents within the children. She identifies them, pushes them to perform, and gets them out of the body of the child. Secondly, this is a teacher who loves her profession dearly. She's not here for a job. I always say teaching is not a job. Teaching is an attitude. Teaching is an attitude. Now this teacher loves her subject so much, she forgets. I have seen my teachers, maybe those days it's possible, or during my lifetime itself, nobody knew how much salary they got. They're so passionate about teaching. In fact, I'm also a bad example of that. Many times these people ask, how much DA you got this month? That I don't know they give DA. Something comes, is okay for me. I don't have to worry so much about it because it gives me a chance to teach. I'm proud of this profession, my friends, because it is perhaps the only profession which has a constant dialogue with the future. Constant dialogue with the future. There are many professions who deal with what happened last. Some professions worry about what is happening now. When you're talking to young children in your classroom, you're having a dialogue with the future. You don't know what they become. Some years ago, first time when Mr. Kumaraswamy became the Chief Minister of Karnataka, I had gone to a college here in Bangalore as some guest for some program, and the principal was telling, sir, the present CM was our student here, sir. I asked him, did you know that he will become a CM? He said, no, sir, I never thought he would become anything. But he became Chief Minister. Very simple fact, I'm telling you, Children come with no labels. With what they become, we do not know. He became the army chief, he become the navy chief, he become an IT engineer, become a great doctor, great philosopher, a great sannyasi. He can become anything, but we do not know. They come without labels. A teacher who loves the profession dearly knows that I am the creator for a future prime minister. From where will the future prime minister come from? From your classrooms only. Future president will come from your classroom. If you teach well, you are putting the seed for a good leader in future. If you are not teaching well, if I want good country 20 years from now, I must better teach properly. Therefore, I'm so proud. A teacher who loves her profession dearly. She loves her profession, not because of the salary and all that. And this is most important, the final stage, a transformative teacher. She loves her students unconditionally. This is the word I underline, unconditionally. I have no reason why I allow them, because I love the student, that's all. I love them so much. Normally, some teachers complain about me saying that you blackmail us. So blackmail or whitemail, I do that. I tell them, if you treat the child sitting in front of you as your own child will be safe. If there is a compromise there, you will have problem in your house. Teach that child. I always tell them, don't you pray that your child should get a good teacher in the school where she is studying? You pray, my child should get a good teacher. Similarly, all the children who are sitting in your class, their parents also have prayed that I should get a good teacher for my child. Thank God. Therefore, I remember I am that person who can love my students unconditionally. And then this is most important stage of an inspiring teacher. Teacher learns to internalize whatever she is teaching. This is very important for me. There's a small little anecdote I should say here, because this is a powerful story. Once there was a great teacher. He was very proud that he is a good teacher. And he got the Rashtrapati Prashasti also, got the Rashtrapati award. And naturally he said, I'm the best teacher in India today. And after some time he died, as everyone should. He died and he thought he will directly have passport into heaven. Heaven should open the door and welcome. What else can God do to a presidential award winner? He went there, the door of the heaven was closed. He went on knocking. After some time, a small slit opened. Security guard from inside looked out. Why are you disturbing? Why are you knocking the door? And this man said, I'm a teacher, I'm one of the finest teachers. And the president award, I should have some place in the heaven. The security guard said, what is your name? He mentioned his name. He said, wait for some time, I'll check up whether your name is there in the list. He went inside and came back and told him, who are you? Go, your name is not in the list. You go to hell, there may be a place for you, not here. The teacher felt so bad. My God, I taught for 40 years and I taught so well. Even the government of India recognized me and this heaven does not recognize me. What is wrong? What did I do wrong? He came there, sat under a tree there and started thinking. And then again a small slit opened in the gate of the heaven, and the security guard who had thrown him out said, look, God tells me, it's a beautiful message, my friends. The stories are so powerful, you can interpret the way you want it. The God tells me, tell that fellow, but come now, tell that fellow to knock off the dust of dead words from his body and then come. Knock off the dust of the dead words from his body and then come. This man thought, where are the dead words? How should I knock off? Where is the dust on my body? What is God saying? Then he started introspecting, sitting there and said, yeah, all 30 years I did the same thing. I said, he said so and so, she said so and so. I borrowed everybody's words and communicated to children. What were my words? I was telling, he said it, this philosopher said it, this scientist said it, this great man said it. I borrowed everybody's words and passed on as if they are my own words. I have not practiced them. I only said it. I did not practice them. They did not transform me. Therefore, they are only dead words. Dead words taking on my body, I should knock it off. With repentance, he started crying and said, God, I know what stupidity I have done. I only, like a parrot, went on telling my students what I read from some books, but I did not internalize. At least bless me that in my next life I become a teacher, will internalize whatever I learned. He was crying out of repentance. At that time, again, the slit opened and the security guard said, "Hey, teacher, come. You got a place now in the heaven. You got a place in the heaven now." The story is so meaningful. We go on advising the student, do this, do this, do this, do this. Have I done it myself? Have I internalized the philosophy of what I am doing, what I am saying to people? This is the fourth stage of inspiring stage. And the last stage comes is more important to me. He becomes a guru. This is spiritual level, the highest level. That teacher will not go behind power and authority because she knows the power that she has is to transform children. This power is not there in any authority. And then this is the most important one. She becomes master. I don't know how many of you read this poem. Otherwise, I'll request you, urge you, and compel you to read this poem. It's called Touch of a Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch. One of the finest stories. There was an auction center and materials were ready for auctioning. The auctioneer auctioned everything else. And is there anything remaining? He looked around. Oh my God, there is one old violin. Nobody used it for a long time. Who will take it? But anyway, instead of keeping it, we sell it off, whatever it's worth. He held up the violin and said, anybody can offer something to this old violin? He went on pushing people. Somebody said $1, $1. Only $1. Can somebody make it $2? Great reluctance, somebody said $2. And again he pushed them. Finally said $3, nothing more than that. He said, okay, good riddance, it's gone. He took the hammer, is about to hammer and say, $3 once, $3 twice. And when he hammered the third time, the auction is done. At that time, one gray-haired man sitting at the last row gestured, please stop the auction. He came forward. He took the violin in his hand, took out his handkerchief, wiped the dust on the violin, tightened the wires, made the bow nice, kept the violin on his shoulder and played violin as beautifully as the caroling angels do. Beautiful. About 10 minutes he played violin. People were mesmerized. Then he gave the violin in the hand of the auctioneer. Now we can auction it. He went and sat on the backside. How much can you offer for this old violin? He lifted. Suddenly, a voice came from a corner, $1,000. Somebody said $2,000. Somebody said $3,000. He said $3,000 once, $3,000 twice, $3,000 thrice. The violin was sold for $3,000. People cheered and they said, my God, just 20 minutes ago, nobody was offering it more than $3. Now it sold for $3,000. What changed the worth of the violin? Quick came the reply, touch of a master's hand, touch of a master's hand. And the poem, the last part, Myra has done a remarkable job in that. She says, we are also like the old violin, sold thoughtlessly, cheaply to the crowd. But there comes a master and touches you and changes you as never before. And the soul can never realize the worth that is changed because of the touch of a master's hand. The teacher who has become a guru, he becomes that kind of a master's touch. We have seen in my life, I have seen in Balu's life, he has seen many more. And in all of your life, there is one teacher, remember. There's one teacher who is responsible for your being where you are. That is the touch of a master's hand. And there is Buddha and Mahakashyapa. Mahakashyapa came to test Buddha, question him, defeat him, but finally became the greatest disciple of Buddha. And he was the founder of this Zen philosophy. And Mahakashyapa, there was no communication. It is said in Zen, in Buddhism, they say, there was no communication between Mahakashyapa and Buddha. There was a communion between the disciple and the master. If Buddha got headache, Mahakashyapa will know. If Buddha is hungry, Mahakashyapa will say, Buddha is hungry. He wants water, give him. And 48 hours before Buddha attained Nirvana, people came from Shravasti and said, Buddha, you're not come to Shravasti for a long time. Why don't you come? Buddha said, I'll try. And Mahakashyapa sitting next to him started laughing. People said, what arrogance? Why is he laughing? And Mahakashyapa said, Buddha says out of his decency, but he can't come. In 48 hours, he is dying. How can he come there? People said, my God, Mahakashyapa is saying that Buddha is dying? They asked Buddha, is it true? Then Buddha said, if Mahakashyapa says it is true. People stayed back to watch the Mahanirvana of Buddha. So many thousands of people had gathered. And exactly at that time, Buddha stopped talking, he collapsed, and exactly at the same time, Mahakashyapa also died. This is the kind of communion between the master and disciple. This is not a physical, emotional, intellectual relationship. It is a spiritual relationship. And finally, the last one is Krishna and Yogacharya. Krishna the Yogacharya. There are 4 stages, my friends, very, very important. A good teacher, a great teacher or a spiritual teacher, a guru, takes us through 4 stages. Initially, we are unconsciously incompetent. I don't even know that I do not know. I drown under the illusion I know everything. From there, a guru touches you and takes you to the next level. You become consciously incompetent. That means I'm aware that I do not know. Earlier, I did not even know that I do not know. Second stage, I'm aware that I do not know. He will put you through the grind, push you, make you perform, then make you consciously competent. You become competent, you're conscious that you're competent. And the last stage is the final stage of growth. You become unconsciously competent. You don't even make an effort. I would always say Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He never studied scriptures, but whatever he said became a scripture. You go to that level. That is the guru level. So the journey has to go from a teacher to different levels, graduate yourself into different levels. If I reach at some level, all of us may not reach guru level at all, but the effort should be on. I should aim at the highest point in life and make work towards that. That is the journey of teacher, from the position of a teacher to the guru position. Let there be an effort to move in that direction. At exactly 20 minutes, I'll stop at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now request audience, you can start posting your questions if you have any questions. And Ramesh, you can pick up a few of from the questions which the participants have already shared. Sir, I request you to disable the presentation so that we can view it in full screen.
Yes.
I think there are a few questions that have come up from the form that we shared, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll take up a few questions at random that has come. What is a modern Guru Shishya approach that you think is relevant in today's times?
Can come back again because I couldn't see it.
The question is, what is a model Guru Shishya approach that you think would be relevant in today's times?
Very simple. I have got 3 questions to ask. These 3 questions were asked to me by Swami Ranganathananji Maharaj. Actually, it was he who brought me into education. He asked me 3 questions. If the answers to these 3 questions is yes, you are in the right profession as a teacher. First question he asked me is, do you love your subject? Don't tell me that I know my textbook. No. Do you love your subject so much that even if you are not to be a teacher, you will read that? I love it so much. In fact, I was a part of the team in UGC to find out how many teachers are interested. Can you believe 72% of the lecturers, as per the report, do not possess more than 20 books in their subject throughout their career? I don't call it as love for the subject. If I love my subject, I'll talk to 10 people. And I see an odd TV serial every day, and one day there's no power. I feel so frustrated because I can't see the channel a particular day. And I telephone to my friend, is there power in your house? What happened to the story? I'm so concerned about it. Do I show the same concern, at least half the concern towards my topic? Talk to teachers across and say, how do you teach that topic? Yes, tell me. If I am so much involved, I love my subject. Second question is, do you love your profession? Some people go on cribbing about it for 30 years and say, oh, I should not have come to teaching at all. I don't know, thankless job, teaching the same thing over and over. Absolutely meaningless. You are not teaching the same subject every time. Remember, if you are doing that, you are doing a mistake. There is a famous statement which says, you can never step into the same river for the second time. There's a famous statement that says, you can't step into the same river. I say I went to Ganga. I put my foot there and take bath and come back. By the time you come back, that water is not there. New water has come. It's a different Ganga altogether. Same thing is true with my classroom also. Next time I have a different set of students. And every passing year, I'm getting much more better exposed children. Love my subjects, love my profession. And third one is, can I love my students at least as much as my own children? If I can love my students at least as much, you are a wonderful teacher. Raghunath Anandji told me 48 years ago, if the answers to these three questions is yes, go ahead and become a teacher. You will be happy, your students will be happy. If the answer is no, for God's sake, don't become a teacher. I should keep on these three questions. I call the foundations of the ethics in teaching. I'm writing a book. I've already finished about 200 pages only on these three questions. I'm not able to complete still. So these three form the tripod of what I call ethics in teaching. If I can develop, I may not become an extraordinary man. At least I should move in that direction. Loving my subject, loving my profession, loving my students, step by step at least I should proceed. And that is the model for a good teacher today.
Sir, one question following, you had mentioned that teachers should love all the children. Then one of the participants has raised a question. There are kids who learn at different pace. So how do we love all the children equally, was the question.
Yeah. If you have two children at home, your own children, two of them, they are not at the same level. Don't you love them? You love them for being children first. And secondly, teaching them is my power. I should teach well. That's why the whole theory of differentiated instruction has come about. Whole differentiated instruction is only about how to make all the students in the class enjoy what you are teaching. I can never say the child is dull. So far, I'm honestly telling you, I never seen a dull student in my class. He may not be interested in mathematics, doesn't matter. He may be extremely good in singing. He may be a good kabaddi player. Teacher's job is to unearth those talents. He need not become a bad engineer. I always give the example of Sachin Tendulkar. My sister's classmate was teaching him in Sharadashram school. She would always come and cry, "Oh, horrible boys, not interested in mathematics." When I go, they're sitting in the last row, they doze off. Looking at them, I forget my mathematics. And she would say, "Sachin will not pass 10th standard." I got wild one day and told her, "Don't tell me that he doesn't know mathematics. His mathematics is different." "What mathematics he has got?" she asked me. I tell you, he is only 5 feet 4 inches in height. He carries a 4-inch wide bat, stands there in the crease, and somebody is throwing the ball at 150 kilometers per hour only to beat you. The fraction of a second the ball comes here. Within that time, he should decide how long he should keep the left leg forward, which angle the bat should come, which place the fielders are not there, should he hit over the ground or along the ground, all that decided in half a second. I told her, if you were to be there, you would land up in an orthopedic hospital. Now, that boy became the youngest Bharat Ratna. Is it not right? If he had been forced to go into mathematics, learn mathematics, stop cricket, two things would have had. One is would have lost a great cricketer and would have had a bad mathematician. My job is to find out what they are good at and push them.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, namaste, sir. Myself, Suresh Bhatt.
Namaste, namaste.
Sir, I have a doubt like the new national education policy has come into picture. How
Yes.
it will impact the children in the near future, sir?
My feeling is after a long gap, we have got a very sensible education plan. Very sensible. So far, we never thought pre-primary is part of education. What a misery. That is the best stage of child's life. We ignored it. We started from 1 to 10. But what about LKG, UKG? Now it has become part of it. Now we have got 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. That's the pattern that we are going to follow. In this case, what is happening is the fear of examination is taken away. Unfortunately, for the last 25, 30, 40 years, we have become exam-centric system, marks-oriented system, and we are conventionally called as Marxwadis. We are only chasing marks and nothing else. This fear will go away now. I tell you, if this continues from some more time, and the best option that is given to children is vocationalization from grade 6. There's something beautiful. Children can learn. We had it. Can you believe me? I'm an old man, studied in old times, but I had from grade 6, I had to choose one of the three. Carpentry, I should choose, or pottery, or electricity. They're called electricity. Electricity does not mean producing electricity. How do you do the wiring in your house? How to set fuse in your house? We have electrical engineers who can't set the fuse of their own house. So therefore, vocationalization is coming in there. And secondly, most important thing is, earlier we used to classify as curricular and co-curricular. Oh, sports, one separate period for that. And then supposing you have some activity separate, nothing. Everything is curricular now. Whatever the child does is curricular. This is a major shift is required. And secondly, once the children lose the fear of examination, they become more confident. And there are 2 examinations this time. They don't have to by heart and reproduce at the end of it. You remember this much, write it. Because so far, who was called as the best student in the school? The one who can remember better. Is it not right? Who can remember, reproduce by heart? Oh, 99%, 100%. He writes everything correctly. No, memory is not required. You got a hard disk there in the computer that will store. You don't have to do that. Unless I teach them, this is the most important part of the new education policy. Creative and critical thinking, problem solving skills. These are going to be the tools for future. If the students are trained in these art, they'll be successful in life. That is the new education policy. I'm very happy with it. There are, of course, you can't expect everything to be 100%, but at least we have made a major quantum jump in going to what is required.
Sir, myself Shailaja. Namaste, sir.
Namaste, ma. Namaste.
As you said, I am also having great expectations from the new NEP.
Yes.
Actually, I am looking for a problem which is now presently seen in teaching mathematics. Students are actually not understanding what we are teaching. Actually, the conceptualization in maths is missing due to the restriction to teach in one language, especially in English. So if language as well as the culture is integrated, definitely they will find a solution. And what we are looking for, the plurilingualism, respecting the languages and the culture, and the child interacts with the family members about the math concepts which is taught in school. So we can see a great change. So I know like how we can actually bring it in school. We have a lot of challenges, but expecting inputs from education experts like you. So
I'll
we
try to
need.
explain that in a simple way. One is mathematics is a logical subject.
True, sir.
It has to be graded step by step. In fact, when a student says, I don't understand mathematics at grade 6, or he says, I don't like mathematics at grade 6, the problem is not in grade 6. The problem is grade 3, 4. It's like wash basin where it's full, the water is not going inside. You normally put a stick and try to clear it. It's all wasted effort. The block is not here. The block is at the end of the line. It is blocked there. If you remove that block, the water goes off. Same thing happens. A boy comes at 7th standard, says, I don't understand mathematics. He passed his 4th standard with 40% marks and came to 5th standard. Got 40% marks in 5th standard, came to 6th. Got 40% marks and came to 7th. What does it mean? He does not know 60% of 4th, 5th and 6th. He does not know. Imagine I go to a movie after interval. I become a nuisance to everybody. Who is he? Who is she? What is he doing? Because I don't understand what has happened before. Therefore, the best way to teach mathematics now, according to new education policies, of course, when it comes in a detail, you will know, we have to prepare what is called concept planning. We have to prepare worksheets based on concepts, not because of the lessons. I hope you understand different lesson in this. A lesson has 2 parts. One is the concept, other is the peripheral. To explain the concept, we use so many things. Like for example, I want coconut. What do I get from the market? Shell. I have to break the shell, take out the copra from inside. I want copra. I don't want the shell, but I have to take it because it comes in that package. So now what is telling is copra is more important. That is the concept. Peripheral is the shell, which protects it. In every lesson that is so. If you are sensitive, prepare worksheets for concepts of each class. And a boy of 3rd standard, he says he finds not interested in mathematics. Start teaching him from UKG, LKG, some numbers. Can you believe that? I have seen children coming to 5th standard who can't add 2 numbers. Then you can see, if he doesn't know a plus b whole square, how do you expect him to understand quadratic equation? So therefore, what we do is prepare worksheets on concepts. That's what the education policy says. Work on concepts. For example, now, see, because of Corona, the schools are not starting. They're not started now. They have reduced the content. Have you seen that? They reduced 30% of the content. On what basis they have done? I've checked up that. It is based on not eliminating the concepts. They are removed the peripherals. Concepts are kept so that logical link will not miss. When I go from 7th to 8th, I must know the basis of 7th on which I can build the 8th standard. So they are removing only the peripherals, but not the concepts. Similarly, if you prepare worksheets and teach them, the students will start liking subject. It has happened in our own life. Some subjects I did not like, but next year a new teacher came and taught in a different way. That became my favorite subject. Has it not happened to many of you? So therefore, a subject is neither bad nor good. It is neutral. It is I who make it more interesting or boring.
Sir, a few questions clubbed together.
Yes.
Teachers are under a lot of scrutiny during this COVID times, and they also feel very vulnerable. And at the same time, even in the pre-COVID times, I think there was a lot of pressure on the teachers because like when we were young, if there was a complaint from the teacher, it was always the kid who was wrong. But now it is most likely the teacher who is wrong. So how do we handle this? So I have seen 7 or 8 teachers raise this question. So I thought club them together.
Yes,
and
yes, very good, very good, very good. Teacher is always vulnerable, not only now, at any point of time, because he is pivotal in the whole system. Tell me, when you drive a car or a scooter, where is the maximum pressure? On the tire. Is it not right? It has got to, because it carries the entire load of the vehicle. Similarly, a teacher carries the entire load of the system of education. This is a vulnerable point, but the most responsible thing. There is a challenge. Earlier, we never said a student is dull and we could get away with that. Now we can't do it. The reason is, if I say student is dull, I must know why he is dull. Now I had to have a change of attitude in my profession. I can't expect in 21st century the respect that was given in 19th century. Teacher was respected. Even I was a student. I forget about 19th century. In 20th century itself, if some teacher beat me up, I'll go home and tell my father the teacher beat me up. I never complained to my father. You know why? My father will give another 2 steps. I think you must have done something stupid. Otherwise, why should the teacher beat you? He would never consider teacher was wrong, because teacher was meant to train you. He will definitely shape you. But today's world is not so. Today's world is not so. Parents are a little fussy. And they, even if you look at a child 2 times, they come back and say, you are only looking at my son, and harassing him and threatening him. All kinds, especially in city of Bangalore. Oh my God, it's horrible. The young parents who come, they always say teacher is not good. Teacher, they evaluate the teacher continuously. That is the pressure on the teacher. But I have a request to make. Don't you think Prime Minister Modi is under pressure? He is being evaluated by people every day, every minute, every second, by people of his party and other opposite party also. And that is the strength Modi has. And more people check me, I should bounce back. Come on, okay, this is the challenge, no? I'll trace it together. I'll take it that way. Yes, some people are unfair. Ignore it. Don't worry about it. I always do things. If I'm doing things very honestly, I don't have to worry about anybody. I always say, if somebody says you are a fool, somebody tells me you are a fool, what do? I feel very bad. Oh my goodness, he calls me a fool. He is a fool. Why should you call me a fool? That way when my wife is next to me, what will she think of me? All kinds of thinking we do. Instead of that, I'll ask myself, did I do something foolish? Yeah, if I've done something foolish, you're right in calling me fool because I've done something foolish. If I've not done anything foolish, it is the wrong number. My name is Guru Raj. Somebody calls me Ramesh, I don't even turn back. It's not my name. So therefore, don't worry about it. I don't say you should become insensitive, but don't try to become oversensitive. If somebody says you are not teaching well, you can sit down and say, sir, this is the way to teach and I'm teaching this way. But you know that they're unfair in doing it, ignore it. Don't worry about it. But before that, you should be sure that you are doing the right thing. You don't have to get certificate from anybody, not from the principal or the director. You should certify yourself. I've been very honest. I've been doing my good job. I've done my efforts very well. Then you don't have to worry about anybody.
There are several questions, I think, because to do with the digital platforms that on which education is happening.
Online.
A lot of the questions which I can club and ask is that how do teachers ensure that they continue to maintain the connect with the students, particularly given that the digital medium can take away from that ability to connect at an individual or at a group level with the students.
I know, I truly empathize with the teachers. This is a real challenge they are facing, tough challenge they are facing, because they're not used to it. As I told before the session started, if I had asked any teacher in January, can you have an online class? Should have laughed and said, why online, sir? Students are sitting there. But come March, the whole thing changed. They were not trained, not at all trained. And they heard the Zoom word for the first time in their life. And now they're sitting before the TV. In fact, I'm talking to my students in the US regularly. Every day I take classes for them, because since I couldn't go personally this time, I tell you, they are worried. American teachers are worried. They ask me, sir, I don't know. That fellow switches off. I can't see his image. In America, you can't even scold your child. Forget about your student. You can't scold your child. You will give a telephone number and people come and pick up the parents and take them to jail. That is the position there. Now, what will you do? And child switches off. And some most worry thing for a teacher is, if they have 25 students or 30 students in a class, 30 are not attending their class. 70 are attending their class. Am I right? The father and the mother sit next to the child. They are looking at the teacher. Oh, teacher is not teaching properly. Her English is not so good. What she writes on the board. They keep on making comments. Because it is a new expression for them also. They had also not seen in class. So this is a new thing for all of us. But believe me, this is an absolutely short-term measure for some time. It's an experiment. And please don't believe that whatever you teach will be understood by the students. The online technique, only 15 to 20% will be understood by the students. But why are we doing it then? The reason is that you require something called as School Connect. School Connect. Imagine many people are blaming online. Oh, should stop online. Online is bad. I think it is absolutely madness to say that. Okay, we don't do online. What are we going to do? Children sit at home, teachers sit in their houses. And I tell you, human mind is so funny. You get used to staying without school for 3-4 months for a child. He enjoys doing that. And coming back to school is a problem. And even for you also, teachers also, work from home. Okay, it's so convenient. And you have to come to school next day and work for 8 hours. My God, that all work from home was better. I could do all my work and still stay in my own dress. I can be comfortable. But it's not so now. So therefore, mind get used to the condition in which it is put for a long time. So to keep the school connect, both the teacher and the student, that there's something academic. I'm in grade 4, grade 5. I should study this point, at least to give the connection. But after the school starts, you have to do it all over again. Take it from me. You can't expect that I finish the curriculum. Oh, yes, I have taught you. No, I don't teach that. You'll have parents before your school again. Because they are not understood. They are not understood. You do it in a simple, the government is also helping us. They are going to cut down the syllabus substantially. You don't have to teach the entire content. The content required to be taught in the remaining period. I hope there will be some remaining period in the academic year this year. Whatever the time left, they'll give you that much of content only. Therefore, you don't have to rush through. So therefore, online is a challenge, but I tell you, it is an opportunity for you. It's a newfound weapon that you have got. Take it from me. Earlier in 20th century, people used to say, before World War and after World War. In 21st century, we're going to say before COVID and after COVID. This is a new powerful technique that you have found out. Am I right? Zoom is such a powerful technique, and you want to reach somebody, you can do it. Now, if Balu had asked me to come to HD Kote, I'd have said, sorry, I can't come. Difficult for me to come out. But he can tell me 1 hour I can talk from my house. It's fine. Excellent. It's so nice for all of you sitting in your house and then getting connected to people. It's so beautiful. So therefore, you have found a new technology. Use it effectively, but judiciously. And there are bound to be comments about online. But believe me, it's only for establishing school connect and keeping the children online with the academics required, just to keep them busy.
Sir, several more questions we are trying to combine. We request your comment on two issues.
Yes.
One is, how can teachers be learners at 30 plus, at 40 plus? How can we continue to be learners, and what is the attitude that we require for that?
Yeah.
And the second issue, where again combining several issues, is how do we inculcate values in the students of the 21st century?
Yeah, beautiful. First one, how do I remain a learner? But remember, the first and primary duty of a teacher is to learn. In Upanishad it is said, Adhyayanam Adhyapanam Brahmanasya Vrittihi. Brahmana does not mean by birth, a teacher. He mentioned first is Adhyayanam, then Adhyapanam. I must study and then teach. A teacher is compulsorily a continuous learner. If you don't learn, you can never be a great teacher. If I say I know everything, the day I think I know everything, that is the beginning of my death. I can never do that. And I say I know it, by next day something else happens. That's what in one of the article I wrote. Nobody can claim to be an educationist in the world. Nobody can say I know everything about education, because by the time you say, things have changed. I'll give an example, Praveen, for this. I work with a young lady in US. I meet her every year. I've learned so much from her. She's a very passionate teacher. She got the President's Award. I'll mention her name also. You can use it in Google and get a lot of information about her. You should know, she prepares her class, her teaching aids and everything. It runs in the corridor. Oh my God, 30 seconds for the bell to go. She will never go to the class late by a minute. She says, if I go 1 minute late, I'm wasting 40 minutes. 40 students are there, 1 minute each. 40 minutes I lose. I can't do that. And I've seen children follow her like a Pied Piper. One day, a girl came with very high fever. Her father dropped her near the school. She attended only her class and went back. I asked the girl, why did you come? You're not well. She looked at me incredulously and said, how can I miss Weimer's class? She's a magician, you know. That is the finest certificate that teacher can get. Her name is, I can give you the name if you want to write down. You can go to Google and check. You'll get 500 pages of information on education. If you just type the name. Her name is Mary Ellen Weimer. M-A-R-Y-E-L-L-E-N. Mary Ellen Weimer. W-E-I-M-E-R. And just go to Google and type Mary Ellen Weimer. You get 500 pages of material on education. How to take class, how to manage your situation, how to manage your emotions. 100 things are there. I told you she is a very young girl. She's only about 72. She is only about 72. I always ask, Praveen asked, how can you be learner at 30, 40 and 50? She's 72. And if she can be so passionate at 72, what is the problem at 32, 42, 52? And she says, oh my God, there's a new information. I should get it today. She will go and search and get it. That's the willingness I should have. Because, as I told you, Radharatnam ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಟ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ತುಂಬಿದ್ರೆ ನಲ್ಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದ್ರೆ ಗಾಳಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಓವರ್ ಹೆಡ್ ಟ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ತುಂಬಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ. ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ತುಂಬಿಸ್ಕೊತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಬೇರೆ ಗತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ. And second question, how to pass on values to our students? Very, very simple answer I have got. Don't teach values to children. Demonstrate values. If you want your children to be punctual, you should be punctual to the class first. If you want to teach kindness to children, you should be kind. And you want to teach hard work to them, you should be hardworking first. Please believe me, values are never taught. Values are demonstrated. If I do it myself, I work hard for it, children love it. They accept you. But if I only say do it properly, and I relax, they will not accept. Therefore, the only way to pass on values to our children is you become a valued person. There is a very famous statement. Don't call your students to come on moon. Don't tell your students to go to moon. You go first and invite them. You go first and invite them. So values are to be demonstrated. I have to do it. There is no question. Otherwise, I am not a teacher. I'm not a teacher. And one more point I'll add to it, Praveen. And teaching values also, don't teach them separately, away from your text. Every text is inextricably interwoven with values. You can't separate. Don't teach. Normally, when I teach an English poem, I teach the whole poem. At the end of it, say, the moral value of the lesson is, moral of the lesson is at the end. That's not the way to teach. Don't teach morals at the end of it. First, read the poem. You understand what is the moral of the poem. Give one or two examples, one anecdote. Create an environment of that value. And then tell children, to explain this value, this lesson has come. Please remember, value is not a product of the lesson. Value is not the product of the lesson. It is the cause of the lesson. Because of value, the lesson has come in.
Thank you, sir. We are kind of running short of time, so I would ask you to make your closing remarks.
I have only one remark, my friends. We are all extremely good people. In SVYM, without even looking at you, I can tell you are all wonderful people. Otherwise, you would not have stayed in such a good organization. It's one of the finest organizations I have seen in my life. More ethical, completely ethical, so hardworking people, sacrificed a major part of their life to build this organization. They are demonstrating values at the highest level. Because I know Balu and all other friends, they were very young at that time, and I was also very young, used to stay with them. Wonderful people. You are that. But there is something called as constructive dissatisfaction. I want all of you to have it. Dissatisfaction is bad. Constructive dissatisfaction. I could have been better than this. I can do better. The moment you get satisfied with what you do, there is no urge to become better. Unless I decide that I must make a difference in my teaching. If a student does not like my class, I'll tell this very simple format, I'll tell you. Take a small slip of paper to your class every day. I normally used to do that. Take small piece of paper like this. You take paper of this kind and give it to the students. At the end of the class, I want them to write only 2 points in that. Only 2 points. What I liked most in the lesson today, what I did not understand. That's all. Only 2 points. But don't make a very complicated question paper to children. Right? What I liked most in the class today, what I did not understand. There's nothing remarkable about teachers. Take it back to the staff room and see if out of 40 students, 20 have written ideas, then you know that you have not taught that properly. Go back to the next day class and teach it in a different way. And if they say they have liked this part very much, contemplate for a moment, how did I teach that? Oh yeah, I use an activity for that, you know. That's what they understood. Because philosophy of education is, I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand. If it is experiential learning, children will never forget it. How do I convert teaching into an experience? Make an effort, make activities, enjoy it, And one last word I would like to say and stop. Thoroughly enjoy what you do. Go to the class absolutely cheerful, smile. I always say, many teachers cannot smile. I don't know what is the problem, some manufacturing defect. They can't smile at all. I tell them, Baba, smile. Not for students, for your own health. Otherwise you'll get BP at the age of 40. Be smiling and cheerful. Children, small children don't like frowning faces. 5 children stand before the mirror and frown. You don't like your own face. Therefore, be cheerful. You can be cheerful only when you're enjoying what you are doing. If you're not enjoying, your smile looks like crying. Therefore, enjoy what you are doing. Be grateful to God that you are a teacher. Some people say teaching is a thankless job. Oh, thankless job. Don't think it is thankless job. When you put a seed on the earth, it takes 15, 20 years for the tree to become a big tree and start giving fruits. Don't expect the day you put the seed. Imagine you are 50, 55. You are going home from market. You are carrying the basket in your hand. On the footpath you are going, suddenly a big car comes and stops next to you. Oh my God, big car. Who is this fellow? One giant of a man comes out of the car. You can't remember him. He comes and touches your feet. Ma'am, you remember me? I was a student in 6th standard. My God, how can you recognize? What's your name? Which batch you are in? You ask all that. And then definitely you will ask, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? And if the man says, now I am the governor of Uttar Pradesh, how do you find? This can happen only to a teacher, nobody else. It can happen to a good teacher, I should underline that. If you are a good teacher, the car will stop. If you are not a good teacher, the car will zoom past you. You will tell the driver, go fast, otherwise she will stop me. That's the reason. I want to be a teacher who is liked and respected by everybody. Yes, I want to be a teacher of that kind. Please enjoy this journey. Enjoy this journey. There are problems, I tell you. Teaching is the least paid job in the world. Not only in India, everywhere else in the world. Take it from me. In fact, I go to Harvard Business School where Balu studied. I handle some papers there. And the professor says, do you know the salary? I go to corporates, I get 6 times more, 7 times more than this. Then why are you staying here? He answered beautifully. Who are the people going to corporates? They're the ones who I trained, you know. He says, I'm not working in a corporation. I'm making corporations. Look at it, powerful. In Japan, they say, the country became non-violent because of teachers. They acknowledge it. Don't you think I belong to that fraternity? ನಾನು ಮೇಷ್ಟ್ರು ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ನನ್ನ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಹೆಗಲು ಆಕಾಶ ಮುಟ್ಟಬೇಕು. I'm not second to none. Once it happened to me. I was in Hassan. I was doing teacher training for a group of teachers. At the end of the session, you know, the principal called an IAS officer to distribute certificates. Not all IAS officers like that. Some IAS officers are showy. They want to show that I'm an IAS officer. They want to show off. He was that kind. He came there with an arrogant look and came and said, what are you? What are you? He was asking everybody. There is a good teacher called Prakash, a good mathematics chemistry teacher. When IAS officer asked, what are you? Suddenly he froze. Crouched his shoulders and said, sir, I went and held Prakash by the shoulder, took him to the IAS officer and told him, Prakash, never ever say, I'm only a teacher. Say with pride, I am the only teacher from whose classes IAS officers come. You are only a product. Am I right? You are an IAS officer, a product. I am a factory. Am I right? From where will the IAS officers come? They are coming from my classrooms only. Therefore, I need not feel small. He may have more power, he may have more money, more cars, but I am the one who make him. Therefore, enjoy what you are doing and believe that you are making the future of India. You are not an ordinary person. If you remember that I am doing a great job, my mind will be full of joy and happiness all the time. No regrets at all. In fact, when I write my profile, what are you? I said teacher. Don't mention professor, director, all these are nonsensical. I was not born as a professor, I'll not die as a director. I became a teacher. I enjoyed being a teacher. Therefore, enjoy teaching. That is the most important message I can give you. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you, sir. It was an amazing session. We can only pray that this session never ends. And on behalf of all the teachers here, I have one request to make. I think you should have a series of training programs in teaching us using the art of storytelling in sessions.
Yes, we'll do that.
Because you put across such powerful messages using the art of storytelling. I think there's a lot to learn from you. And you might have seen the chat box, that it's getting flooded with lots of thank you messages.
I know.
It was a great session, sir, very insightful. Just as we have the attention of all the participants, I just wanted to take your attention towards a couple of things that in the next, if you have any feedback or any questions, I know a lot of people would be upset that their questions were not raised here.
No, please send the questions to me. I'll reply through email. I'll do
Yes,
that.
sir. We'll compile all those questions. You can, we'll share the questions with sir and we'll get back to you with the responses.
Yes.
And the video as well, the recorded video, we will be able to share that.
Yes.
And in the coming week, we will have Professor M.K. Sridhar with us. And this series of sessions, as I mentioned earlier, will continue for 50 weeks. And after Professor M.K. Sridhar, we will have Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy. And this will be on Independence Day. He'll actually talk about the role of teachers in elections as an experiential learning in democracy. And followed by which we will have Mr. Anurag Beher, who will talk about role of teachers in strengthening education in India. And then on Teachers' Day, we will have Dr. Kasturi Rangan address all of us. So I am hoping that all of you have enjoyed it. And I'm also hoping that all of you continue to be with us in this journey of 50 weeks. Thank you, sir, once again. And thank you all the participants for joining us.
Thank you so much. Praveen, I have a request to make. For future sessions, can you send me the Zoom link also?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
I'll definitely attend some of them.
Definitely, sir. And for all the participants, one common announcement, the same user ID and passcode can be used for all the sessions.
Fine.
And those who want to go to the recording, you can go to the same channel that we currently went live on, where the recording will be posted. We will share that link as well.
Thank you.
Where you can watch the recorded sessions. Both the video as well as the audio will be shared.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.